Hospital. Mr. Elmo has been married for 23 years and has 2 children. Mr. Joao Korngold is one of the founders and directors of the Spiritist Group of New York and the Spiritist Alliance for Books. He started studying Spiritism for more than 20 years ago, and he has been one of the directors of Mediumship meeting for the past 15 years. He is also responsible for study groups of Spiritist Group New York that focus on the basic books of Spiritism on André Luiz collection. He has been giving lectures on Spiritism in Portuguese and English for the past 6 years. Joao Korngold is an engineer and has been working as a banker for the past 20 years. And also they have been working together, right, in the mediumship meetings. So there is a lot of experience that we're going to be sharing today, and I'm sure you're going to all enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Good afternoon. We are going to talk about mediumship according to Spiritism. That's very important because mediumship was not invented by Spiritism, was not created by Spiritism. Mediumship exists since the first incarnated being connected with the first discarnated being as the first caveman inhabited Earth. Now, what Spiritism, or what Allan Kardec did, was to codify, study, and as you've seen in previous lectures to explain how mediumship works and how we can use mediumship to improve ourselves, to learn from the spirits, to help those in the other side. Now, this is a classroom, so it's a workshop, it's not a lecture. So if you guys have any questions, raise your hands, we'll try to address the questions. Of course, we have limited time, we have like 1 hour and 20 minutes, but I think we will have time for, if you have questions, as long as there are one question after the other, after the other, after the other, then we will have to try to control time. But, so, we're going to cover mediumship according to Spiritism. So what's the difference of mediumship according to Spiritism and mediumship outside Spiritism? Mediumship outside Spiritism can be done in a safe way or in a dangerous way. How is a dangerous way? If you have no control of your mediumship, I normally use the example of when you live in your house, you close the door and you don't allow strangers to come into your house, you only allow your friends and people you know. If you have an open mediumship, it's like leaving the door of your house open and anybody can come in. So all spirits come in and start communicating with us, and it can be very disturbing. So Spiritism, we learn how to control. The first step is how to control our mediumship. Of course, there are mediums out there that never heard of Spiritism that do it in a safe way, that prepare themselves, control their thoughts, control their mediumship. And that's wonderful. That's the right way to do. Now, in Spiritism, we try to practice mediumship always in a safe way. So, we learn about mediumship, we study mediumship, we learn how to use mediumship for the right purposes according to Spiritism, and then we start using it, only after going through the whole study and preparation and everything. So, what we really are going to address here is a dialogue with spirits, how we talk to spirits in a mediumship meeting. So we are going to cover theory and practical guidelines to converse with discarnate spirits. Discarnate spirits are spirits that are in the spiritual world. Incarnate spirits are all of us here. All of us that we can see each other. There are spirits here that most of us cannot see. If someone can see, you can tell that there are many of those here also. Of course, what books we use for this workshop? The Medium's book, of Allan Kardec is the basic book of mediumship. Anyone that studies mediumship according to Spiritism have to start with the Medium's book. The second one is my personal favorite, In the Domain of Mediumship, of André Luiz, the Spirit, through Francisco Xavier, that talks about a mediumship meeting from the other side. Because we are going to talk about mediumship meeting here from our side, from the incarnate side, what we do here. And in this book, they cover mediumships meetings, several that they go through, from their side, from the spiritual side. And we have so much to learn from that book. It's a book that we use to study, reread, and learn always. A book that we are actually studying in our mediumship meetings in New York nowadays, Talking to Spirits in Mediumship Meetings by Terezinha de Oliveira. The book is available. The United States Spiritist Federation sells that book here. It's really a basic guide of mediumship meeting according to Spiritism. Teoria da Mediunidade, unfortunately not translated into English. It's a book this size, a lot of study there. Another book that is very good, unfortunately, not translated into English, not for lack of trying. We tried several times. We spoke with Hermínio Miranda when he was still alive, but his family wouldn't allow us to translate the book into English. So it's Dialogue with the Shadows. It's one of the basic books when we discuss mediumship. Disobsession by André Luiz and Francisco Xavier. It's a guide of how the mediumship meeting works step by step. Participants, time, duration, it's the basic guidelines. And Guidelines for Safety by Divaldo Franco and Raul Teixeira that talks about mediumship in diverse aspects also. So, I spoke about Hermínio Miranda, and the very first words of Hermínio Miranda in the introduction of the book, Dialogue with the Shadows, are, I believe to be necessary to declare, right at the beginning of these pages, that not one work dealing with the experiments of Spiritism has any value if isolated from the context of the 5 basic documents of the doctrine. So, what he's telling us basically is that mediumship is a whole package contained in the 5 books of the codification, starting with the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, which is the guide, the Gospel according to Spiritism. Why would we use the Gospel according to Spiritism? When we are talking and trying to assist spirits that are suffering in the spiritual world, we have to give them guidance according to the moral aspect that is covered in the Gospel according to Spiritism. And of course, Heaven and Hell, that half of the book is communications from spirits at the time of Kardec that are back in the spiritual world. And Genesis is the scientific book that talks about mediumship also. So if we don't study the 5 books, we really do not have the fully understand of mediumship. There are some chairs available still. One here, one there. We didn't expect all of you to come. I thought it was going to be me and Elmo talking about it. So, again, the 5 books of the codification, the basic books, the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, the Gospel according to Spiritism, Heaven and Hell, and Genesis. So what is Spiritism? Okay, most of you know what is Spiritism, but maybe some are coming for the first time or heard about Spiritism recently. And for us to understand why we are studying mediumship according to Spiritism, first we have to understand what really is Spiritism, right? So Spiritism has a triple aspect: science, philosophy, and moral teachings. Moral teachings, a lot of people will say religious teachings. Is Spiritism a religion? Not in the traditional sense of a religion. Spiritism has a religious aspect that comprises the moral teachings brought by Jesus to us. But it's also a science when it deals with our relationship with the spiritual world, how mediumship works, the perispirit to perispirit that Elmo is going to talk about it. This is science. And philosophy. Why do we need to do that? What are we going to gain on our lives and what they are going to gain in their lives as we have this interchange of experiences? So, before we start talking about mediumship, there are three basic questions, right? First, are there spirits? If the answer is no, please just leave, because you're wasting your time here if you don't believe in spirits, because it loses all the sense here. So, what are they? So, if we believe in spirits, there are spirits, what are they? And are there means of communication between us and them? These are the basic questions that come from the beginning of the Medium's book by Kardec. Because if we are going to deal with spirits, we need to understand and answer the basic questions. So, how did Kardec approach this? Kardec, if some of you don't know, started, it was in vogue in Paris in the 1850s, the turning tables, the tables we will answer questions. So Kardec was never much interested in that. He was a scientist, an educator, a scholar. But until one very good friend of him, someone that he trusted, told him, you need to go to one of these table turning session because it's incredible what happens there. So Kardec says, okay, out of respect for you, I'll go. And he goes, and these turning tables start to answer questions, and Kardec, being very rational, says, a table doesn't have a brain, a table doesn't have the ability to reason, so it's not the table answer. There is something answering that is not the table. What it is. So that's his question. So he was not interested at all in the fun that people were having at that time. So he concluded that they were intelligent. It was an intelligent phenomena. The answers were answers that sometimes were not expected, could not be from someone that was there. There was something more there. So he concluded that these intelligences were what he called spirits. So us without the physical body. And investigating even further, asking questions, he found out that these intelligences were just us without the physical body. We went back to the spiritual world, we lose the physical body, we leave it behind, but we continue to be exactly who we are. And this is very important that Spiritism and Kardec teaches us from the beginning. The fact that you die or that you lose your physical body doesn't make you better or worse than you are today. So if I go back to the spiritual world tomorrow, I have all my imperfections and all my qualities with me. I don't have a physical body. So once we conclude that they are just the same, they are us there without a physical body, any conversation that we have with them has to be understood in that way, that they are just spirits of us that went back to the spiritual world. And we continue to exist there. So, they live in another dimension. We choose to call spiritual dimension, it's not a perfect word, but we really don't have anything better. If someone comes up with a better definition of what's the other side, please feel free to make suggestions and we can use it. But the world of spirits, it's the spiritual world, the spiritual dimension. That's how we call it. So, can these two dimensions interact? The answer is yes. Kardec, continuing studying, concluded that on our side, on the side of the incarnates, are some individuals that have special abilities to interact with the spirits through different ways that we will get there. So he decided to call them mediums, intermediates between the spiritual world and the physical world. We hear the word medium out there all the time. This was a word created by Kardec in 1859. Kardec says later in his works that we are all mediums. Of course, we all have the ability to receive influence from the spiritual world, positive and negative. If we have a guardian angel and our guardian angel couldn't communicate with us, what would be the use of having a guardian angel, right? So if he or she can communicate with us, so we are mediums. Now, we are going to talk here more what we call ostensive mediums. That mediums that have this ability to communicate with spirits in a way that allows them to transmit these communications, to hear, to describe, in an ostensive way. So when we talk about mediums here, we're not going to talk about everybody, we're going to talk about these people that have the ability of communicating with the spiritual world in a special way. So when Kardec asked the spirits about the possibility of exchanging communications, the spirits answer very simply, but why should not they do so? What is a man if not a spirit imprisoned in a body? And should not a free spirit be able to hold converse with a spirit in prison, just as a free man can converse with another who is bound in chains? So if we can talk to someone who is in jail, in the special visits, we are in jail. This physical body restrains ourselves, our ability to express ourselves to our full abilities. So we are in what we call a prison in the physical body. And the spirits that are free from the physical body have the ability to talk to us, to communicate with us. So, mediums, we talked a little bit about this. So these are people with ability to interact at a much higher level. There are few of us. They can see spirits, they can hear spirits, they can receive their thoughts and speak them or write them. Psychophony, psychography. These are the terms that we use in Spiritism. And they have this differentiated organic disposition that science has yet not recognized and doesn't understand. In the books of André Luiz, he explains that the main organ for mediumship is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is completely not understood by science until today. There are some Spiritist researches that's been studying the pineal gland for some years, and they found some specificities in the pineal gland that shows the mediums that have pineal glands different from ostensive mediums from other people. But still is something that is very not well understood. So, we are going to focus here for the purposes of this workshop on those mediums that are able to receive spirit thoughts and speak them out loud. So, mediums of psychophony. So what happens is that the spirit, through the spiritual body, in Spiritism we call it the perispirit, connects with the perispirit of the medium and transmits the thoughts to the medium, and the medium voices the thoughts. So the medium is talking what the spirit is transmitting through thoughts, or even through words sometimes, but mostly through thoughts. So mediums of psychophony, Kardec called them, in the medium's book, Kardec called them speaking mediums. Psychophony is ability to talk out loud. And there is a very important difference, right? There is another category called hearing mediums. Hearing mediums are not speaking mediums, because what I describe here, the psychophony, the medium of psychophony, he's receiving the thought of the spirit and voicing the thought. Hearing mediums are mediums that hear spirits talking in the spiritual world. That's different, right? It's not a medium of psychophony. He can repeat, tell us what he's hearing, but it's not transmitting the thoughts of the medium. It's a different form of mediumship. It's also mediumship, but it's a different form of mediumship. It's just for us not to...
Just a comment here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So these are all psychic phenomena, okay? And Emile Miranda actually differentiates the psychic phenomena into mediumship and anemic phenomena. And this is very important to make this differentiation, because the hearing mediums, he classifies it as an anemic phenomena, because you don't have that interaction of perispiritual between the medium and the spirit. Okay? So the hearing medium is someone who is able to climb the wall that separates the physical and the spiritual dimension, go on top of the wall and hear everything that is happening over there and bring to the side. So there is not a real interaction. Therefore, Emile Miranda does not call it mediumship. Psychophony is a mediumship because there is an expansion of the perispirit of the medium that interacts with the perispirit of the spirit, in which the medium receives the thought of the spirit and verbalizes it. Okay?
Thanks, Elmo. So, how does this work? These thoughts, then they go to the part of the brain responsible for speech, and then to the phonation apparatus of the larynx, and transform into sound for all to hear. The medium may be fully conscious, semi-conscious, and not conscious at all of these thoughts. Okay, so, yes?
Could you say that the speaking mediums, they are being used by the spirit to communicate?
Yes, absolutely. They are vehicles. The speaking mediums are being used by the spirits to communicate. They are vehicles of the spirits to
The speaking mediums, they are interacting with the spirits and transmitting
their thoughts, the thoughts of the spirits. Yes. The hearing mediums are not. They are just reporting what they are reporters of the spiritual world. They report what they are hearing there, or the seeing mediums, what they see there. The mediums of psychophony, no, they are transmitting the thoughts of the spirits. Okay? Now, it's important to differentiate here between fully conscious, semi-conscious, and not conscious. The fully conscious is when the spirit, communicating spirit, sends the thought, the medium processes the thought, and expresses the thought in his or her own words, fully aware of the conversation. The semi-conscious, this goes in a more automatic way. So the medium is not fully aware, but somewhere aware of what he or she is speaking. So it's just different types of mediumship. There's not better or worse, it's just different. And the unconscious, not conscious or unconscious, which was the type that Chico Xavier was, is the communication goes without the medium, without going through the rational process of the medium. Chico Xavier could receive two communications, one with each hand, and talk to you at the same time. This is unconscious, right? Of course, he was an exceptional medium. It's not an example. But, you know, Elmo once gave this explanation. I love it. I always repeat it a long time ago about the computer, right? That helps us understand very well these different types of mediumship. So your computer breaks at home, and you call technical assistance. And the guy tells you, press A, press D, now Control V. This is the conscious medium, right? He's telling you what to do. You have to think and do, right? The semi-conscious, he's going to be telling, press A, press C, press A. You keep doing it without even thinking, but you are doing it. Now, the not conscious, he said, let me take over your computer. Give me access, and I'll do it myself. And you are there. You are in control. You can interrupt him at any time. A medium can interrupt at any time. But he's doing all the work there. You are not doing anything. So that's the difference between these three types of mediumship.
In this first example that you said, it's fully conscious. Is there any kind of interpretation?
Any
kind of interpretation of the medium?
The question is, sorry, I have to repeat the questions because they were recording. So he's asking if there is any interpretation of the medium. It can have, theoretically, the medium should be able to express exactly what the spirit is feeling or saying, controlling the words. Of course, you are not going to use obscenities, things like that. The medium is responsible for the communication. But the medium should express everything that the spirit is feeling, because that's the best way for us who are having the conversation with the spirit through the medium to understand what the spirit is feeling. If the spirit comes very angry and the medium filters and the spirit, I am here, I want to talk to you. So we don't understand the anger. We don't see the anger. The spirit has the right to express, but the medium, of course, cannot stand up in the chair or start stomping and kicking. That the medium has to control. But the medium has to express the feelings, because that's the best way for us to be able to communicate with the spirit.
I think the picture will answer his question very well.
Go talk about the picture.
Okay, sure. So, he's gonna film me now. Can you see there? No. No, never mind. I'll walk there. Okay, so here you have the conscient, the semi-conscient, and the unconscious, okay? I couldn't make the translation of the illustration when I made this. So what you see with the conscient, there will always be, during the mediumistic trance, an expansion of the perispirit. Right now, we are incarnate, we are physical body, spiritual body, spirit. We are spirit, but we have two instruments of work, right? Once this physical instrument no longer works, I don't need it anymore, you go back to nature, I return to the spiritual plane, and I bring with me my perispirit, right? Which is an instrument of work of I spirit, right? So for the mediums, right now incarnate, good. It's a triad, spirit, perispirit, physical body. So during the mediumistic trance, there is always an expansion, partial expansion of the perispirit from the physical body. That's what allows the interaction with the perispirit of another spirit, okay? Here in this picture is the conscient medium. There is expansion, but it's so minimal that it's not being represented here, okay? And you see over here, there is a much greater representation that's really expanded. So they will interact perispirit to perispirit. The spirit will pass its thought to the medium. It's going to go to the cognitive part of the brain of that medium. Therefore, yes, he will be an interpreter. As if João tells me something, I receive it, I hear it, I analyze, I interpret, and then I say it. Okay? So I'm very aware of what I'm saying. Okay? In the subconscious, now let's go to the unconscious first, because the subconscious is just between the two of them. In the subconscious, there is a much greater disassociation of the perispirit-spirit complex. The perispirit filters out, which allows the medium to be more in a trance state, which allows the spirit to send its thought. It needs to go to the brain, but it doesn't go to the cognitive part of the brain. Okay, so it doesn't remember what he said or what is still in control of it, or she. It must be in complete control of that communication throughout. Okay, so it goes, the thought goes to the brain of the spirit, but in such a subtle way that it bypasses the cognitive function of the brain and goes straight into the vocal apparatus. Okay? And the semi-conscious is exactly between the two stages. Is the medium who doesn't stay very close together, perispirit, physical body, but doesn't separate too far out. And it will vaguely remember everything. Some of it stays in the cognitive, some of it goes straight into the vocal apparatus. Now, it's important to remember they must go to the brain, okay? Because my vocal cords, my larynx will not operate without nervous function. It needs to go to my brain in one way or another. But it does not need to go to the cognition part of my brain. It doesn't go to my gray matter. Okay?
He's the doctor. So, the mediumship meeting team. So now we're talking about the mediumship meeting itself. It comprises of mediums of different abilities. One or more dialoguers, which are the ones that talk to the spirits, and Elmo is going to go through very specifically. The pass givers, to give passes both to the mediums and sometimes to the spirits that are too much disturbed to have a proper communication. Individuals who provide fluidic energies through their vibrations. So there are those in the mediumship meetings that apparently are doing nothing. Normally they are the most important ones in the meeting because they give us the support that allows the mediumship meeting to run smoothly, to run without major disturbances from the spiritual world. So normally these are the requirements that serious spiritist groups ask, that all members be students of the doctrine and be a part of at least one study group. You shouldn't go only to the mediumship meeting and not be present in any other activity of the house. Actually, being part of the mediumship meeting is being part of the group in the most complete sense. So you have to be active within the group in other activities, even if you are just present, watching, being part of the study group. The group must be united. This is fundamental. The common objective of the group is the practice of charity. So if you cannot be charitable with each other, how can we be charitable with the spirits? We have to be united, because some of the spirits that will come will come directly to attack us. And if you are not prepared and we are not in harmony, in symphony, it can easily destroy the group and even the center itself. So this is very important. Of course, there will be members coming in and out of the group, not all the time, but eventually. Things happen, and people have to leave. People find out that that's not exactly what they want. We had someone that was part of our group for like 3 months, and then said that she was too afraid of the communications of the spirits. She didn't want to be part because she was having nightmares and things like that. So, and some people, we had one person that came to our group, was there. We always invite them if they want to for the first 3 weeks just to be observer, to see if they like. He was there for 3 weeks and said, you know what, that's not what I want. That's fine. There are many things to do in a Spiritist group. Actually, there are more important things to do in a Spiritist group. You don't need to be part of a mediumship meeting. But if you want to be part of a mediumship meeting, you need to commit. You need to dedicate yourself to the work. André Luiz suggests a group size between 8 and 14 people, because more than that, it's too many people, and it's very easy to create disturbances for the group. Of course, you have a group of 4 people, you can work, but you have 1 medium, 1 counselor, 1 pass giver. It's minimum, you would think that 3, right? But Chico Xavier, when he started his mediumship, they formed a mediumship group of 4 people, and then all 3 left, and Chico was by himself. And he was for 2 years by himself, doing the meeting only by himself. He was the medium, the counselor, and everything. Again, Chico is a special case. But when he was alone there, he asked Emmanuel, his guide, I'm alone here. Why should I continue to do this? And Emmanuel said, you are alone there. Here, we are full of people that are participating in this meeting. So you continue to do your work there, that we are here. So, we have to always remember that the group size 8 to 14 is on our side. On their side, it's many more, probably. As they say here, there is a much more complex work in the spiritual side. They arrive way before us. They have nurses, doctors, mentors, specialized workers. It's really, if we could see how complex is the spiritual side, we would be surprised. And again, I go back to the book In the Domain of Mediumship. That describes very well the other side. And they even use special instruments that are described as the psychoscope that is described in the Domain of Mediumship. They have screen-like tools to show to the spirits their past lives and what happened to them, why they are facing the situation they are in. So sometimes the dialoguer is talking to the spirits, and in the spiritual world they are presenting the spirit with scenes from their past lives or things that happened to them that will help them overcome their struggles. So this is the psychoscope in a very interesting illustration of the book In the Domain of Mediumship. You see André Luiz using the psychoscope, which is a kind of a eyeglass that allows him to see the mental energies of the individuals, incarnate individuals. We have it stopped working already, again. So you see the connection between the incarnate individuals that are connected to each other and connected to the mentor, who is that guy there in warm up, but still, there you go. That's the mentor, that's André Luiz. And this, you see the light coming here and connecting to each other. I don't know if you can see clearly. But so these have all to be in synchrony for a more efficient work of the mediumship meeting. So now Elmo will take over with the mediumship meeting itself.
You're doing such a good job. I don't want to continue. But anyway, up to this point, is there any question before we continue? Yes. For him or for him? Okay, for you. Okay.
Can you explain the psychical forming and the conscious leadership and this connection with the Holy Spirit? What happens when the spirit does not need to communicate? He only needs the contact with your body. Does that happen the connection with the perispirit as well?
Yeah, she's asking what happens when the spirit just need what we call anemic shock, that Elmo is going to cover a little bit later. So the spirit comes, has the anemic shock, and doesn't say anything. That's enough. So the spirit comes and goes. It happens exactly like we described. It has the connection, it has the... But in that sense, the only important thing is for the spirit, the perispirit of the spirit to connect with the perispirit of the medium. When they do that, the spirit receives what we call an anemic shock, which is a contact with the physical world. That's what they are missing most. That's what they need. They need this shock to awake. And sometimes they don't need to talk. Just the shock is enough. But Elmo is going to talk a little bit about this later. You had a question also? No? Ah, okay.
Let's give support. Okay, so our main objective here would be to demystify mediumship and mediumship meetings. If you learn nothing here today, I'd like you to unlearn something, all right? Unlearn the mystical, unlearn the rituals, the dogmas, okay? Take the mediums out of the pedestal of sainthood. Take the mediums out of the the fire of hell that some people place them, and start to understand the whole phenomena as something absolutely natural, okay, that requires understand. Spiritism is science, as João has said, and every science requires study, requires understand of the practical aspect of it before you engage in doing it, okay? Understand the risks and benefits of the practice of mediumship. So if you don't learn anything here, please unlearn this. There is no rituals. There is no black magic. There is no voodoo. There is nothing of supernatural, okay? Man and woman who has this extra ability to interact in a more dynamical way with the spiritual dimension, okay? So what happens in the mediumship meetings? What happens when we close the door and kick everybody out and this is a closed meeting now? And everybody is very curious, and I would be sure what's happening over there. A mediumship meeting, like any other work in the spirit sense, starts with a prayer. And again, no rituals, no dogmas. Why praying? We have our lives, right? We work, we have bosses, we have wives and husbands, we have kids, and if you have teenagers, we live in a little hell. So you come rushing from work and you have to sit down, and now you have to decompress. You have to leave everything outside so you can create the kind of energy, the current of energy that unite all the members of the medium, that allows us to unite with our spiritual mentors, okay? They will do the best. They will lower the energy as much as they can. But if you don't bring yourself up a little bit, there will be no connection. It's impossible, okay? Prayer will help us to do this. Will help us to place ourselves in a state of meditation, of tranquility, of serenity, that allows us to elevate ourselves a little bit, to leave the outside world outside, forget about past, forget about future, is only present here now we with the mentors with one single objective, which is to assist. So again, no rituals. There is a reason for everything. And if there is no reason, don't do it until you find a reason. It should be followed by a reading of the gospel or a message of moral content. I think this is important to differentiate from technical readings. A mediumship meetings is a work of charity, is a work of assisting suffering spirits, and at times we're going to see here, is an opportunity to educate ourselves when we receive messages from the mentors for more educated spirits, okay? But it's not a meeting in which you're going to do a study group. I'm not going to be reading, let's say, topics in the scientific aspect of the doctrine, things like understand what is perispirits, what is the differential of a conscious and unconscious medium, because that's not the objective. Okay? So always start with a passage of the gospel or some enlightened message with moral content to help us to elevate our energies, to allow this connection with the spiritual mentors of the house. Passes. Unfortunately, there is always what you call the Papa Passes. Individuals always interested more in treating themselves than assist others, then it's me, created this need, this vice of getting passes. I don't know when did it started, but it's something that I think we need to start working very seriously. There may be a need for one or another member to receive passes. Again, you have a rough day, your boss almost fired you, you are out of control, you almost have a car accident on the way to the center, you're really shaken up, you need passes, fine. It shouldn't be every week. If somebody's coming asking passes to start the meeting every week, you have to sit down with that individual and say, what's going on here, right? Have to educate ourselves over there. But if there is a need, ask for it and you get your passes. A spiritual mentor may or may not set up the mood of that meeting. May bring a message, telling you what is about to happen, may bring a message to help us to elevate the quality of our thoughts. You know, I may be more worried about what's going on with the Yankees games, and she's maybe more worried about what's going on in the soap opera, and a message from the mentors may make us forget about the Yankees and the soap opera. All mediums make themselves available at this moment. So that's the moment that you had the prayers, you had your you enlightened messages, you find yourself in a state of meditation, which by definition means free of thoughts. One may think it is impossible, but it's not, okay? You basically become an available instrument at the hand of the spiritual mentors at this moment. It may take a few minutes, it may take a while, it may never happen. There are cases in mediumship meetings that you don't have no communication. You spend an hour and a half, look at one another, where are they? Nobody show up. It happens. It's very rare. I only recall once that it happens in our group. Okay? This is also very important. The spiritual mentors will pair medium spirit in accordance with the specific characteristics or the need of the spirit. We all have our own prejudices. We all have our own cultural aspects. We all have our own preferences. So does those sensitive mediums. That in itself premeditates what kind of spirit that medium will be more able to assist, more able to help. And everything refers to assist, to help. That's the only single objective here, to help spirits on the day, okay? And there is also this organic disposition that may or may not create a compatibility of spirit and medium. I don't know what it is. I don't think the mediums know what it is. But the spiritual mentors, they do know. In that picture that we saw over there, in which all the members being united, so to say, with a mentor, those mentors knows exactly what is the potential of that medium in general, and what is the potential of that medium on that specific day. And they will pair the spirits with the mediums in a way that it provides the great possibility of assisting that spirit. You can interrupt at any time if you have any questions, okay? Once the medium notices that there is an approximation of a spirit, once the medium notices that there is the interaction of their perispirits, medium spirit, he or she will give us a signal, and at that moment, the director of the house will call one dialoguer or counselor to initiate a conversation with that spirit that will express his thoughts via that medium. And of course, the only reason for a mediumship medium is to elevate mankind morally. According to Erastus in the Medium's book, that's the sole objective. They are not coming here to teach us to progress intellectually. It will happen as a bypass, as a side effect, so to say, okay, as a consequence of other things. But the objective is to teach us to evolve morally. If you read Andal's books, if you do, you see that there is great enlightenment intellectually, advancement, things that André Ruiz revealed in the 1940s would only be confirmed with the advance of MRIs, of functional MRIs, actually. So it brings some, but not with the intention of advance us, scientifically speaking, but morally. And that's the way we should regard the mediumship meetings, as an opportunity for ourselves to evolve morally and to provide the very little that they can offer to brothers and sisters to progress themselves. Yes?
So why do the spirits that are better side, they need the assistance of incarnate people? Could I get the assistance from the spirits themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to hold off because we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, but that is basically what I talk about, the dynamic shock. And here we go. Some discarnate spirits are in so much distress that they do not perceive the spiritual help available to them. So let's imagine we're going to go back to someone that is purely materialistic. Okay? After death is nothingness. And this individual discarnate end up in the spiritual world. By all means, it's not he or she is not dead. It can't be dead, because with death there is nothingness. And you keep waiting for nothingness that will never happen, because we are eternal. These spirits may be in such a state of distress, of confusion, that they may be surrounded by help, but they cannot perceive it. Being so purely materialistic, during that anemic shock, as João has said here, they receive very gross materialized energies. Okay, because when there is this approximation, perispirit to perispirit, there is a two ways current of energies going, okay? So the spirit will receive very dense energies, and that creates that shock, anemic. It feels like he's incarnate at this moment. It feels like he belongs back in the spiritual, in the physical plane. And that allows us, the dialoguers, to have a conversation with that spirit and create a window of opportunity now for the spiritual workers to take over and assist that spirit. Because we incarnate, we have what, 15, 10 minutes dialogue with spirit? We can help a real individual? Not much. But if we create that window of opportunity that now the spiritual means can take over, we've done our job. Mm-hmm.
You were talking about this contact mediumship or healing. When in another situation, when, for example, spirits that used to smoke, for example, drink alcohol, addiction, whatever, and we incarnate are smoking or drinking, they get closer. This is an anemic reaction also?
Yes, it is.
Because I don't they come for the sensation of the smoking. Would it be considered the same or?
It's not mediumship.
It's not mediumship, but it's not a psychic phenomenon per se as well, but it is anemic.
The anemic reaction
Yes.
that the spirit is looking for.
Yeah, we are surrounded by spirits, right? If we, as I said there, if you have about 8 billions here, we have 3 times as much in the spirit dimension, right? So we have a great number of witnesses with us all the time. And they will associate with us according to similarities that we have. So if I'm a smoker, there is a likelihood that they will associate with spirits who still enjoys the sensation of tabagism or cigarette smoking, right? If I'm alcoholic and consume a tremendous amount of alcohol, I will attract the spirits who will seek to drink through me, okay? But that is just something that happens naturally. The same way that if I'm a student of music and there is a spirit who really enjoys music, he follow me to appreciate music with me as well. A positive and negative.
What would you call what she's describing a pathological mediumship?
No, not yet. Could it become one? Probably not, if there is not a direct relationship between those two individuals. If I'm a discarnate alcoholic, and Joao is an incarnate alcoholic, and I keep drinking through him, but tomorrow he goes to AA meeting and quits it, I'm going to look for another one. I don't have a direct relationship with him. I just want to drink through him. There's plenty of alcoholics out there. I don't need him. I'll go find someone else. Now, could we establish a relationship? It could, but the likelihood is lesser. Okay? So I think I covered that already. When the perispirits interact with the spirit of the medium, they receive an anemic shock. This may allow them to be more receptive to be helped. Any questions about that? Yes.
Could be a synonym like a burst of energy, to the spirit.
I don't understand. I'm sorry.
Could be a boost of energy or something like that.
Could. Not only could, but it is actually. Yeah, they feel materialized at that moment. Now, could it have a negative aspect? Yes, it could. But that's why we insist that the work of mediumship must be must be done in the right place, at the right time, surrounded by the right individuals, at the right level of energies to prevent all the possible adverse effects of mediumship. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about the dialoguer or the counselor. In the past, they used to work indoctrinator. And that fall of use, thank God, because it's just plain wrong. There's no other way to place it. It's just plain wrong. Because if you look at the dictionary, the indoctrinatus is the one who introduces someone to a doctrine, someone who teaches a doctrine. And that's not the goal, the objective of a mediumship meeting. The goal, the objective is to counsel, is to provide assistance. As I said, we cannot do very much in 10, 15 minutes of conversation. I might be able to introduce a whole doctrine in 10, 15 minutes. It's just plain ridiculous. So it has fallen out of use. It seems to me the word dialoguer is gaining favoritism. I personally prefer the word counselor. I think that's one that makes more sense to me because indeed what we provide is some kind of counseling to spirits, at least to counsel them, at least to this guy next to you. This guy knows, something. And so I think we do mostly is really counseling than anything else. So that would be my favorite word to use, but dialoguer is okay also. Now the dialoguer may or may not be an ostensive medium. The dialoguer may have able to function as an ostensive medium in psychography, psychophony, maybe a seeing medium. But at the time that he's acting as a dialogue, it should not be used as mediumship. Except the mediumship that we all have. The mediumship that allows us to receive inspiration, to receive guidance, that we all have. That's when Kardec says that we are all mediums. He's talking about being able to be inspired, to be able to receive some guidance, okay, through inspiration. That not only we are able, but we should really do it. I think it would be very hard for a counselor to provide proper counseling during mediumship if it was not by the inspiration of the spiritual mentors. So we are in direct contact with the mentors, if we do our part, of course, and we need that, but it should not be in a trance. That would disrupt the work. As again, the dialogue will be in direct association with the spiritual mentors of the house, and we receive inspiration and guidance throughout the meetings. At times, I can speak for myself, and Joao and I are doing this for quite a few years together, and I can speak for him and here also, that we say things. I have the habit as I drive home to review everything that happened to that meeting, to say, could I have done it better or not? And at a time I say, well, I said that. Where did that come from? That is not redeeming. I'm not halfway smart as that. I'm not halfway good as that. I'm not halfway Christian as that. And those words come out of my mouth. How? Through the inspiration of the mentors. Now, prerequisites for the counselor or the dialoguers here. Basically, I understand the basic principles of the doctrine on its three legs: science, philosophy, and the moral teachings, based on the teachings of Christ. A minimum understanding of process with the mediumistic phenomenon. You have to understand what is a perispirit. What is an expansion of a bad spirit? What's a mediumistic trance? Again, you've got to know the theory before you start practicing that. You know, before you go into a lab and start mixing compounds, you have to sit down with in the theory class of chemistry, understand what you're doing, right? Before you pick up a knife and start opening skin, you have to know what the layers that you're going to open. You have to know that before you start doing it. The same thing with mediumship. You have to have a basic understanding of it. Good intention is good, but by itself is dangerous. Have sincere, good moral intentions. Again, you have to create that current of energies that allow us to be connected with our spiritual mentors for the success of the work. And we are transparent to them. We can fake among ourselves, can pretend among ourselves. With our mentors, completely transparent. Don't even try. Don't even try, okay? So if you don't have those sincere, good moral intentions, you're not going to create that association with the mentors because there is incompatibility of the energies right then and there. So this is very, very important. We are true Spiritists as defined by Kardec. And when Kardec asked how you will recognize the Spiritist, the answer was very simple. The one who seeks to be better today than he was tomorrow. Than he was yesterday, I'm sorry. Effort to move forward. Because if you're going to wait for sainthood to start to work with mediumship, there will be no mediumship meetings. You have to start at some point. And Erasmus, again, Medium's book, I always referring to Erasmus in the Medium's book. He says very clearly, we know you. You know all of you. You know how good and how bad. And the only thing that we want from you is your effort. Your continuous, consistent effort to make yourself better. And that is the definition of a Spiritist by Kardec. And of course, prior to become a dialoguer, the individual should spend some time in a mediumship meeting, doing the vibrations, doing the passes, or anything else, to have a feeling what's happening there. To gain some experience by watching, right? In PA school, the saying is, see one, do one, teach one, right? The same thing in mediumship meeting. See one first, then you do one, and then you teach one. Again, more qualities needed for the dialoguer. In reality, these are qualities that the dialogue should aim at, because if I come here and say that I have all this, I don't need, you don't have to be a mentor that will say that I'm lying, right? Moral authority, faith, patience, good listening skills, humility, vigilance, prudence, self-assurance, self-control. So these are things that you should aim at. Again, going back to Ezrast, the consistent effort to gain all those virtues placed over here. Do the best to have all of them. Moral authority, spirits who come in accusing you, who come in throw you truths about yourself in your face. You have to have the moral authority to say, yeah, far from being perfect, but make the effort. And I'm here to assist you, I'm here to help you, not to confront you, not to argue with you. You have to have that moral authority that is based in reasons, based on your true effort. Because if you're not putting that effort, then they'll put you in their pocket, and it's over for you. Faith is a big one, but faith is in the big sense, faith in yourself. Again, based on reason. I'm far from perfection, but I'm doing my best. I'm studying the doctrine. I'm studying the gospel according to Spiritism. I'm trying to understand the teachings of Christ, and upon understand them, I'm trying to apply them in my daily lives, failing more than succeeding by continuing to trying. But faith in the mentors, faith of those individuals are placed over there to guide us. The true directors, the true workers of the meeting are spirits far, far, far more evolved than we, the incarnates, are. Still not perfect, still not Christ's, okay, but very well prepared, that knows us and that you can trust. At that moment, you can trust completely them. I'm safe here. whatever happens, whatever they throw on my way, no problem. The mentors are guide, they'll protect me. I have to have that faith. Otherwise, it's not going to hold true.
My question is, if you are in an instance where you are in a trance and you're talking to, you have the counselor and you have the spirit, and the spirit's not talking, and is it okay for the medium to interfere with the counselor and kind of dialogue with the spirit, or should the medium just let the counselor do it?
At the moment that the medium is in a mediumist trance, the communication takes place, the medium should function just like that, as the medium. They should not be trying to figure out what's going on, should not interfere with the process. Allow faith in the group over here covers that. Allow the dialogue, you figure this out. I mean, this conversation is going nowhere. Maybe come back at another time and we speak again, and then the medium understand and we'll disconnect and we'll cease that communication right then and there. But that decision should be for the dialogue and not for the medium. Okay? Oh, wow, look at that. Faith in the medium, make sure that it's not, they do not start to question the medium. Is it real communication? Is it anemic? Is this guy playing with me? You have to have the faith with your co-workers over there, okay? You're going to have to rush here. Patience, especially in a case that the spirit does not say anything, does not talk anything. What's going on? No, everything is good, everything's fine. Can I help you? No, I'm just looking around. You have to be patient, those individuals. You have to try to find what's going on, why the spirit is here. And you have about 10 minutes to do that, right? So that patience is very good listening skills. It says in medicine that a good history taken is 90% of the diagnosis. If you know how to listen, if you know how to have the proper questions, just by talking to someone, you get 9% of the diagnosis. The same thing here when dealing with suffering spirits. If you listen, if you allow them to declare themselves, they eventually will. And you have the proper questions that I call that suggestive questions, that I'm not even care what the answer is. I just want to bring something out of that spirit to see what's really the motive of the spirits being there. Okay, and then again, humility, vigilance, prudence, self-assurance, self-control, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is important what the medium, who are the spirits who come to a mediumship meeting. And again, here we consider only the serious meetings. We're not going to go with frivolous meetings. The frivolous meetings that want to find out when I'm going to win the lotto, or going to find out when that girl will break up to her boyfriend because I'm interested in her. If you have this kind of thing in a mediumship meeting, you know what kind of spirits you're going to attract, right? You don't need to go there. But if you practice mediumship in accordance with the guidance of Kardec, then we will attract a different kind of spirits. And most is the mediumship meetings today are designed to assist suffering spirits, especially if you talk about psychophony. The more evolved the spirits who are able to teach us, to provide us enlightenment, they will make use of psychography that is more interesting to live in written, because then you can study, we can analyze. If it's just spoken, you may lose it very shortly. Occasionally, a mentor may make use of psychophony to deliver a lesson, a message for the group or for one specific member. Very rare that you see that happens. Sorry. I'm sorry? Yes?
So in terms of psychography, himself, or was he doing it in the context of a mediumship meeting?
Okay. Chico Xavier, Divaldo Pereira Franco, Ivone Pereira do Amaral, they can do whatever they want with the mediumships. They will do it in the bedroom. Chico Xavier used to do during his break at work, psychography. You're talking about, we live here. So for us, we should practice mediumship psychography or otherwise in the proper context of a mediumship meeting. That's our suggestion, that's the suggestion of Kardec. But when it comes to Chico Xavier, then that's another ball game. Yes.
Talking about the spirit sessions and the spirits meeting. So the World Health Organization, they say they predict that by 2020, the rate of people that would die by suicide will be 1 in every 20 seconds. Now we have 1 in 40. So I never heard that about in a spiritist leadership meeting before, but do you think that would be an ideal world, like in the future, we should have a specific leadership meeting for this kind of discarnate, this kind of communication, due to the severity of their situation, which is discarnation by suicide? What do you think about that?
I think a suffering spirit is a suffering spirit for any and all reasons. I don't think you need to differentiate the reason of the suffering. We will identify during the conversation, again, diagnosis by listening, that sometimes we're dealing with suicidals. So we receive many suicidals, but not all of them needs to come to a mediumship meeting. Again, about 150 people die every day, right? 150,000 people die every day. Could you imagine if they all need to go to a mediumship meeting? It would be no room, right? So it's the exception of the exception that requires this anemic shock, that requires, that can be assisted in a mediumship meeting. For most of us, we follow the natural process of the discarnation process and doesn't need one. And the same will hold true for suicides as well. And other times we receive the spirits who come in to express gratitude of the help that they receive. Can you stop?
No, just the other workshop finished. So if someone has kids and want to see them perform there, you should leave now and go to the other room. If not, those that do not need to see the kids or don't want to see the kids, you can stay here, we'll continue. Okay?
I can continue?
Sorry.
Good. So I'll give you 2 minutes. Everybody wants to leave. How many more minutes? How many more minutes? Yeah, this will be quick.
Thank you for coming.
All right, so let's continue here. So who are the spirits who are brought for assistance? And the word brought here is very important. Most of the spirits are brought into the meetings in many different ways. Hopefully we're going to be able to cover that. Most of them do not come spontaneously, but they are brought into the meetings. And primarily anyone who is able and ready to be helped, even if they don't know it, and most of the time they don't know it. Okay? The great majority do not come on their own, but they are brought in by spiritual workers. Members of the group may act as ambulances. Some may come to the Spirit Center accompanying incarnate participants of the studies, of the lectures, of the fraternal assistance. Some are sent by the bosses to disrupt, threaten, frighten, intimidate, accuse, seduce, or negotiate with us. So there are a group of spirits in the spirit dimension who do the work of rescue, transiting to the lower zones where we live right now. We live in the lower zones. Okay, there's plenty of spirits around us here that needs help. Some of them are in condition to be helped. Some of them not ready yet. They have to mature a little bit more, so to say. Those who are able, they'll be brought, if they have any merit, they'll be brought to house of assistances. And some of the house of assistance may be a Spiritist center, where they'll be able to have a communication, to have the dynamic shock that you already spoke about. Members of the group, especially the mediums, may act in ambulances, meaning that maybe as early as a day before the meeting, they start noticing something is different. That's because there's already a spirit in association with those members that will be helped in the mediumship meetings. Once a lady went to Divaldo and asked Divaldo, I have this one obsessor, and Divaldo interrupted that immediately and said, one? Oh, that's good for you. because obsession today is epidemic, especially at this time of transition of the planet. You should expect there's plenty of spirits over there that are trying to get something, and since this is the best I've ever been, most likely we owe something to someone, and they may come to collect what they believe is theirs. And in being so, we may bring those companions with us when we go to the Spiritist Center, when we go to the studies, not knowing what's happening, when we go to a fraternal assistance, and very often those spirits who are ready, able to be helped, they will stay. And other times in the meetings, when you speak to them, they will say, what are you doing? You hold me here. I need to go back. I have to be with her. I have to be with him. Which justifies what I just was saying over here now. And of course, there are many of those who just don't like the work that we do, and they will do everything to stop it. There is plenty of spirits that do not like the work of Spiritism. And their bosses will send people to try to negotiate, to threaten, to scare. At a time it works. We have lost some people who got scared. Yes? We'll go back. Mm-hmm.
Do they know that they are speaking for meetings?
Very often, no, they don't. The more clever is the one who's on the bottom, the one that are sent by the bosses, they want to come to threaten, they know.
Those who are
No, usually they don't. Usually they don't even know who they are at that point, some of them. Some of them can't even identify themselves. They're in such a state of distress. They would know they're speaking through a medium. And at times, that's one of the means that you try to prove to them that they are this kind and say, just look how you're talking. And they say, oh, wait a minute, something's weird here. That also works at times. Identification. Is it important to identify spirits? 99.9% of the time, no. You don't have to ask their name, social security number, gender. None of that is really important. That will help the spirit. Some want to identify themselves. We open them the window opportunity. You want to tell them who you are, you're most welcome. Okay, especially the very proud ones, the ones with nobility, they want to identify themselves. You give them the opportunity to do so. The issue with gender. We all know the spirits have no gender, right? But we all have our self-identity. If I die today and up tomorrow in the spirit dimension, I identify myself as the way I know myself. I only know myself as Elmo. That's the only thing that I know. Maybe the incarnation before Elmo, I was a blonde lady in Germany. I don't know. But right now, my own identity is a male. And gender is a very strong identifier. It's a very powerful identifier. Most time we identify ourselves, we start with name and then gender, right? So spirits will have this self-identity, even knowing that, even I know the spirit has no gender. Once I leave this body, most likely I will identify myself as a male. So will the spirits that we receive. And during the conversation, we get a glance of who you're dealing with, male or female. During that conversation, it will be declared at times. And to avoid the embarrassment of calling my brother and this person, why, how dare you call my brother? I'm a woman. Try to use gender-neutral words. English is more flexible, and that helps us. And I think in Portuguese it will be more difficult. But use the word friend. That's gender-neutral. That will facilitate and avoid embarrassment. The issue of children. That's a big one. Some say children does not come to mediumship meeting. They don't need. They are helped in the spirit dimension. Some disagree. I'm the ones who disagree. I think there is room and opportunity to help anyone, regardless. A 90 years old has a self-identity as being a 90 years old. And I say a 9 years old because before 7, he may identify himself more with previous incarnation yet, but a 9 years old is pretty solid knowing that who he or she is. And upon discarnating at a 9 years old, it will retain that identity, and why couldn't it be helped in a Spiritist center? But that is still required further investigation to see, do they come or do they not come? Reception. The counselor will always receive all spirits equally, regardless of the initial attitude and words. They come in angry, they come in crying, they come in need consolation. You receive them all equally. Welcome, my friend. This is a house of assistance. We are here to assist in any possible way. Extend a friendly welcome. Offer any immediate help. Somebody knocks at your door and says, I'm hungry, I haven't eaten for 3 days. You're going to offer him the gospel. We're going to talk about Christ. If you're lucky, he's going to turn around and walk away. Right? Somebody says hungry, they need bread, they need food. You satiate their hunger, then you want to talk about Christ, go ahead. Maybe they will listen, maybe they will not. Right? But some come and say, I'm having horrible pain, my head's going to explode. Say, calm down, we're going to take care of that, we're going to provide you medicine, and we will provide medicine. Okay? Take care of that thing that is immediate. Otherwise, not going to have a conversation. I am freezing. I am dying of cold over here. Don't worry. We're going to provide you a blanket. We have something warm for you to drink. Let's calm you down. You have to create that calmness, that sense of being well received, so you can initiate a true conversation with spirit. Again, if you're hungry, if I'm hungry, don't talk to me about Christ. I don't want to hear about Christ. I want a sandwich. Right? And that's everybody else. If I'm thirsty, don't tell me about Mother Teresa. Give me water. State your objectives very clearly. Not here to fight. We're here to help. And very important, give them assurance. Make them feel comfortable, secure. You can say anything here. Here you are protected. No harm can be done for you here. Those who are following you, those who are enslaving you, they cannot come inside here. They will not. Make them feel comfortable that they can trust the individuals and the environment. Then they will ease themselves and allow a conversation to take place. The counselor must allow the spirit to speak again, ability to listen. To gain what is the real focus of attention, what's really brought that spirit here. Again, the spirit coming here is screaming that my head's exploding, I have the worst headache of my life, but that's not really the reason it's there. Okay? And it's behind that we after you take care of, give them some analgesia, give them some comfort, their head's better, now I can speak, then you find out what brings this. Maybe it's that because he's very angry because his wife he married after he went to the spirit dimension. It's not really the head, but if you concentrate on the head, the first thing that comes with that, you lose the opportunity to help that spirit. So allow the spirit to speak to see what really brings you here. How can I really, really help you? As I said before, suggestive questions. And the suggestive questions are the ones that I don't really care the answer. What I really care is what is the focus of attention of that spirit? Who are the suffering spirits? The ones who doesn't know that they are dead yet. Okay, that's a very big one that you see very often. Again, if you're purely materialistic, you're not going to know. Those who know but do not accept, why did God do this to me? Why now? Why me? Those who are severely attached to material things, family, loved ones, a big one that causes disruption. Those with physical pain, and I use, of course, in quotation, physical, because they feel as if it was physical, in specific parts of the human anatomy. Those who are being persecuted, those are just escaped slaveries. And the biggest of all, regret, especially for us Spiritists with the waste of opportunities. Those come in very bad shape to the Spirit Center. I'm going to skip this because I don't have time. Yeah. These are all types of spirits that I receive. And disobsession to me is free lunch at the medical education. You go to the hospital offering people, we're going to have a lecture for this and this and that. No, I'm too busy. Or there will be free lunch. Oh, yeah, what time is it? I'll be there. You put the obsession, everybody who's interested all the sun, okay? But it's nothing more than the same work that you do with anyone else, except that here there is a direct relationship between a spirit and an incarnate that is causing a process of obsession taking place. I'm very sorry. I was told that I have to stop and draw you close here.
Yeah, we have the presentation of the next symposium on the other room. So we are going to finish by saying that dialoguing with the spirits is a work of charity. The benefits for all of us are immeasurable. We are working of charity. We exercise empathy, develops tolerance, patience, self-restraint. We minimize prejudice and judgmental behavior. Emmanuel says, we are here now because we belong here now. We must attend our incarnate brothers and sisters. We should dedicate some of our time and years to those in prisons, hospitals, nursing homes, homeless, prostitutes, drug addicts, etc. These are even greater challenges in the exercise of charity. So let's focus on the spirits that need assistance, but let us not forget our brothers and sisters, incarnated brothers and sisters that need help, need assistance, and are there, out there. Just go look for them. Thank you very much for your attention.